It was Valentine's Day, a day that had always felt like it was for other people, but this year it was mine. My boyfriend, Ethan, had truly outdone himself, presenting me with a collection of thoughtful gifts and a beautifully decorated cake that sat on my kitchen counter like a trophy. I was floating on a cloud of pure happiness, so much so that I felt compelled to share it with the world. I carefully staged a photo of us, smiling and holding the cake, a testament to our perfect love, and uploaded it to my social media feed. It was my first Valentine's Day with a real boyfriend, and I wanted to remember every moment of it. The comments began to roll in almost immediately, a cascade of gushing praise and heart emojis. Friends and strangers alike commented on how gorgeous I looked and what a total catch Ethan was. Each positive remark was a little boost, making my confidence soar to new heights. But as I scrolled through the flood of adoration, one comment stopped me cold. It was from a user I didn't recognize with the handle Oracle, and their words were a jarring splash of ice water on my perfect day. "Stop showing off," it began. "That bracelet on your wrist is used to house a dead person's soul. If you keep wearing it, you're going to die. Smash it, now." The message was so bizarre, so out of place among the well-wishes that I couldn't make sense of it. A bracelet was going to kill me? It sounded like the plot of a bad horror movie. Other users quickly jumped to my defense, ridiculing the strange commenter. They asked if he'd lost his mind reading too many fortunes and joked about his ghost and goblin talk, dismissing him as some kind of online scammer trying to stir up trouble. Bolstered by their support, I replied directly to him, my tone dismissive. "Don't try to scare me. I don't believe in that stuff." Almost instantly, a response from him appeared. "Just think about it. When you first put that bracelet on, didn't you feel an icy, bone-chilling cold? That's because of the dead soul inside." A knot of unease began to form in my stomach because he was right. I did remember that feeling, a strange, profound coldness that had seeped into my skin the moment I'd slipped it on. The street vendor had explained it away, telling me it was a rare, high-quality bracelet that would actually improve my complexion over time. And to be fair, since I had started wearing it, I had felt myself becoming more stunning, my features sharpening into a version of myself that was more beautiful every day. It was this newfound beauty that had caught Ethan's eye, prompting him to ask for my number and pursue me relentlessly until we went from strangers to an inseparable couple. In my heart, this bracelet felt incredibly important, a key to the life I now had. Why would I ever smash it just because of a few strange words from an anonymous person online? Before I could dwell on it, Ethan leaned in, and a sudden kiss broke my train of thought. "Chloe, what are you thinking about?" he asked gently. "Let's cut the cake together." I shoved my phone into my pocket, the disturbing messages from Oracle completely forgotten for the moment. Later that night, long after Ethan had gone home, I was getting ready for bed when I remembered the strange exchange. I opened the app and navigated to my private messages, where I found my inbox flooded with notifications from Oracle. He had sent a barrage of messages, each one more urgent than the last, all pleading with me to get rid of the bracelet immediately. "That bracelet is called a yin-yang bracelet," one message read. "Just like the name implies, it connects the world of the living and the dead. Once you've worn it for a full 49 days, the owner of the ashes inside will take your place, and no one will be able to save you. Take it off quick. After a month, you won't be able to get it off anymore." I glanced at the calendar on my phone, a cold dread washing over me as I did the math. Today marked exactly 1 month since I had started wearing the bracelet. My heart began to pound in my chest as I quickly tugged at the smooth, dark band on my wrist, trying to prove to myself that it could be removed easily. But no matter how hard I pulled or twisted, it wouldn't budge. I only succeeded in making my skin red and raw. I even tried using soap as a lubricant, but the bracelet seemed fused to my wrist, stuck fast as if it had become a part of me. This was strange. I remembered specifically buying a larger size, and it had slipped on so smoothly. It shouldn't be like this. Panicking, I clicked on Oracle's profile. I scrolled through a long history of posts, all centered around fortune-telling, spiritualism, and exorcisms, stretching back for a long time. It didn't look like the page of a typical scammer. It had a strange air of authenticity. I sent a hasty reply to Oracle, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed. I asked him how he could be so sure that my bracelet was one of these so-called yin-yang bracelets. After all, there are countless bracelets in the world, and many of them look similar. His response came back within seconds. In the photo, there's a red dot in the center of your bracelet that's formed from the ashes absorbing your life force. If you don't believe me, look for yourself. I immediately pulled up the Valentine's photo I had posted. Just as he said, when I zoomed in on my wrist, there was a tiny, distinct red dot in the center of the bracelet, a blemish I hadn't noticed before. But when I stared at the actual bracelet on my wrist now, there was nothing there. It was perfectly smooth and black. Another message came through. Also, for your bracelet to have a red dot that gathers life force, it means someone has been dripping blood on it every day. Think about it. Who gets close enough to you every single day? He wants to use your life to nourish a soul. You're in serious danger. Once it has absorbed blood, you won't be able to take it off. A profound chill went down my spine, far colder than the one I'd felt when I first put the bracelet on. I thought about how Ethan would always stroke my bracelet whenever he held my hand, telling me how beautiful it was and saying he loved the bracelet as much as he loved me. His touch, which I had always found so tender and loving, now seemed sinister in my memory. I had always assumed he cherished the bracelet because he cherished me, an extension of his affection. But now, Oracle's words filled my mind with a creeping, insidious dread. To be honest, I didn't fully believe the bracelet was made of ashes or was meant to nourish a soul for someone else. After all, I had spotted it myself at a humble street stall and bought it on a whim. It wasn't a gift from Ethan. Yet I couldn't ignore what Oracle was saying. No one is willing to gamble with their own life. I asked him for more details, desperate for some way to disprove this nightmare. "If you don't believe me, don't leave your house at all tomorrow," he replied. "The person who's been dripping blood on the bracelet will definitely try to get close to you. That's because the bracelet can't go without blood before it's time to be removed. Find a way to refuse to go out. Without fresh blood, the bracelet will slowly start to wither. I'll head over to your area to handle the rest." After thinking for a long moment, I decided to listen to him, just to be safe. It was better to be safe than sorry, and I wasn't willing to lose my life over a piece of jewelry. The next day was the weekend, a time when Ethan and I would normally be stuck together like glue. Sure enough, the next morning, a message from him popped up on my screen. "Chloe, what should we do today? How about we go swimming? I know how much you love it." I had never explicitly told Ethan that I liked swimming. Where could he have heard that? A flicker of suspicion led me to scroll through my old social media posts, where I found an old photo I'd made about a day at the pool. My profile was public, so I figured he must have seen it there. I took a moment to compose myself and replied, "I'm not feeling so great today. Let's go out tomorrow." After the conversation with Oracle, I hadn't slept a wink all night. I'd even had a horrifying nightmare where my body was taken over by a woman with wild, messy hair, a vision that scared me so much, I kept my eyes wide open for the rest of the night, terrified to fall back asleep. "Then I'll come over to keep you company," he texted back immediately. "I can bring you some of your favorite food. I miss you, Chloe." His words made my heart feel warm, a familiar comfort in the midst of my growing fear. But thinking of what the online stranger had said, I steeled myself and turned him down again. "Tomorrow. I'm a little tired today and want to catch up on sleep." After sending the message, I tossed my phone aside, forcing myself not to reply anymore. A little while later, however, my phone rang. It was a delivery driver, telling me my food had arrived. I was confused. I definitely hadn't ordered any food. I picked up my phone and saw a new message from Ethan in our chat. "Then get some rest. See you tomorrow. I ordered some takeout for you. Remember to get it." For a fleeting moment, I thought to myself that Ethan probably wasn't the one dripping blood on the bracelet. Maybe what Oracle had said was complete nonsense. I even felt a little ridiculous for letting a few words from a stranger throw me into such a panic that I had even started doubting my own boyfriend. But my next thought wiped the smile right off my face. I opened the front door and saw Ethan standing there, holding a bag of takeout with a warm smile. Suddenly, I couldn't smile back. A million chaotic thoughts spun in my head, and I even started imagining how he might try to murder me, playing out a whole movie's worth of terrifying scenarios in my mind. Ethan's face was still the same handsome, kind face I knew, but at that moment, it sent my mood plummeting into a dark abyss. He really was trying to harm me. Whose soul was he trying to raise using my body? It wasn't until his face was right in front of mine that I snapped out of my trance. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" he asked, his smile faltering as he noticed my gloomy expression. He quickly asked me what was wrong. I just said I hadn't rested well the previous night, and that was why I looked so off. The moment he stepped inside, his hand reached for my left wrist, the one with the bracelet. Oracle's words exploded in my mind. I quickly sidestepped, grabbing his hand with my right one before he could touch it. "What are you doing here all of a sudden? And how did you know I was hungry?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Ethan didn't seem angry about my sudden defensive move. While we were eating, I kept glancing at his hands, looking for any sign of a cut or wound, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. Even so, the fact that the bracelet wouldn't come off still made me deeply uneasy. I couldn't stop thinking about it. By the afternoon, Ethan still showed no signs of leaving. He was clattering around in my kitchen, making me a glass of lemonade. We'd been together for a while, and he made me a fresh fruit juice every single day. But this time, when he handed me the tall glass of lemonade, I froze. There was a clear, fresh cut on his hand, with a small bead of blood welling on the surface. On pure instinct, I jerked my hand up so he couldn't touch my bracelet, knocking the glass from his hand in the process. It shattered on the floor, and a piece of glass flew up, cutting Ethan's leg. I'm so sorry," I apologized quickly, backing away from him. I turned to go to my room to get the first aid kit, but as I turned, I heard Ethan let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a sneer, a laugh full of contempt. But when I spun back around to look at him, he was just sitting there with no strange expression at all. Did I mishear it? As I was disinfecting the cut on Ethan's leg, I vaguely felt my phone vibrate in my pocket, again and again. He didn't say anything, just stared intently at the bracelet on my hand. "What's wrong? You keep staring at my bracelet today," I asked, pretending to be casual. "Want me to take it off so you can play with it?" A slight, unreadable curve appeared on Ethan's lips. "Okay," he said. I didn't expect Ethan to answer like that, and the atmosphere became incredibly awkward. I knew the bracelet wouldn't come off now, so I had been planning to wait for him to leave before I could figure out how to smash it. Even though we'd been together for a while and I'd always thought he was a great boyfriend, I wasn't about to bet my life on it. In the next second, to my utter astonishment, Ethan smoothly slipped the bracelet right off my wrist. "It's mine now then," he said with a small smile. He took the bracelet off so fast that I didn't even have time to react. I couldn't even manage an expression. But when I saw that the bracelet was finally off, my face changed in an instant. There was shock, but also an overwhelming sense of relief. The good news was the bracelet was off. I wasn't going to die, right? Was it possible his gentle approach wasn't working, so he had decided to just take it by force? Ethan noticed the change in my expression too, and he suddenly laughed out loud. "What are you thinking? Like I'm going to eat you or something? I saw there was a crack in your bracelet. I know someone who can fix it. Isn't this your favorite bracelet? How can you wear it if it's not perfect?" With that, he placed the bracelet back in my palm. Sure enough, I picked it up and saw a tiny hairline crack on the surface. It must have happened when I dodged him as he came in the door earlier. With the bracelet safely off my wrist, I started to think that maybe the online stranger was wrong. Maybe he was just a fortune teller, and there was no such thing as all this spooky, supernatural stuff. Ethan chatted with me for a long time after that, only leaving after it was completely dark. I looked at my empty left wrist, and the heavy weight that had been pressing on my heart finally lifted. I quickly grabbed my phone and messaged Oracle again, telling him my bracelet was off and asking if that meant the whole soul-raising thing was over. But Oracle's next words plunged my heart into an icy abyss. "Impossible! Blood has already been offered to it. You couldn't have taken it off yourself. Someone else took it off for you. You've been tricked. Once the person who offered the blood takes off the bracelet, tomorrow night is when you're supposed to die. Also, with the bracelet off, you will see the owner of the ashes tonight. Whatever you do, don't let her know you can see her. She won't hurt you tonight. She just wants a preview of the person she's about to replace. But if she finds out you can see her, all bets are off. My hand holding the phone trembled so violently that it fell to the floor with a clatter. I'm going to see her tonight? Where will she be? I didn't even dare to lift my head, just prayed fervently that she wouldn't suddenly appear in front of me. I frantically turned on every single light in my apartment, bathing it in a harsh, artificial glare, and planned to hide in my bed and pretend to be asleep. Oracle said she wouldn't hurt me. As long as I was asleep, I wouldn't be scared. But as I turned to go back to my room, I caught a movement in the hallway mirror. My blood ran cold. A woman was standing right behind me. Her hair was a tangled, wet mess, completely covering her face. Her entire body was soaking wet, her clothes clinging to her pale skin, as if she had just crawled out of a river. As I stared, frozen in terror at her reflection in the mirror, she slowly opened her mouth. A grinding, creaking sound came from her teeth as she gnashed them together. She pulled her wet hair aside, revealing her eyes. They were completely white, with no pupils or irises, and the sockets themselves were stretched to twice the size of a normal person's. Goosebumps erupted all over my skin. I was so scared I could barely think straight. My mouth opened before I could stop it, and a choked scream escaped my lips. Ah! After I screamed, I distinctly felt the woman behind me lean her neck onto my shoulder, her cold, wet presence sending shivers through my entire body. Then she whipped her head around to look directly at me. "You can see me," she rasped, her voice like scraping rocks. My heart leaped into my throat. I forced myself to calm down, pulling out my phone and babbling nonsense to cover my terror. "Oh, I totally forgot to message Ethan to see if he got home safe. He's going to be so mad at me." I fumbled with my phone and started typing a message to no one, my fingers clumsy with fear. I watched her reflection as the woman behind me stared for a long moment, then seemed to accept my fabricated excuse and drifted off to the side, though her unnerving white eyes never left me. She began to toy with her own hair, even placing her disembodied-looking head on her knees and humming a discordant tune as she braided the wet strands. I was covered in a cold sweat, my hands trembling as I managed to type out a message to Oracle, telling him that I saw the woman and asking frantically what I should do next. A voice call request immediately popped up from his side. I accepted it, surprised to hear a woman's voice on the other end. Her voice was soft and delicate, not at all what you'd expect from a ghost hunter. "I know you're scared," she said calmly. "I'll stay on the line with you for a bit. She's right there next to you. Just listen to what I say." The Seeker, as I now thought of her, confirmed that based on the current situation, it was certain that Ethan was the one dripping blood on my bracelet. This woman was the target he wanted to resurrect, and I was the unfortunate person whose body he intended to use. With the bracelet off, tonight was the only night the woman and I would be alone together. I had to pretend I couldn't see her all night and not arouse her suspicion. Otherwise, if she thought my body couldn't be used for her return, she would simply kill me. "Also," she continued, her voice low and serious, "since they chose you as the vessel for the soul's return, you must have had some connection with this woman before she died. Or maybe you witnessed her death. Otherwise, the method of using blood to nourish ashes wouldn't work." But I had no memory of ever seeing this terrifying woman before. To get a better look at her face, hoping to jog my memory, I gently glanced in her direction, only to find that she was gone. Just as I let out a shaky breath and started to relax, I suddenly felt an icy chill on my back. She was breathing on the back of my neck. Every hair on my body stood on end, but I had to grit my teeth and tell myself not to panic. Her posture was just too bizarre. Her legs were bent at an unnatural angle as if she were swimming through the air, and her cold, clammy hand was resting on my head. I felt like I was on the verge of suffocating from fear. I just kept saying, uh-huh, into the phone in response to the Seeker, trying to memorize everything she was telling me. She told me to just get through tonight. Tomorrow night would be the most dangerous. During the day tomorrow, although I wouldn't be able to see the woman, I had to go along with whatever plans they had. Ethan would definitely try to ask me out. My job was to go along with it and pretend I knew nothing. Otherwise, the woman would kill me before the ritual could even begin. I had first seen the woman at 10 p.m. Therefore, the soul swap had to happen at precisely 10 p.m. tomorrow. Before the swap, Ethan would definitely put the bracelet back on my hand to reinforce the connection to the soul vessel. The seeker would strike at the exact moment of the transfer, when the soul's connection was at its weakest, and destroy the woman's spirit. Tomorrow, when you get to the location, find a way to send me your GPS coordinates, she instructed. If I don't make it by 10 p.m. sharp, you have to find a way to drip your own blood onto the yin-yang bracelet. Once the blood on the bracelet is impure, it can buy you some time. After going over a few more important details, the seeker hung up. I had no choice but to force myself back to bed. I didn't dare to sleep. I just closed my eyes and started counting sheep in my head. 1, 2, 3, As I was counting, just as I was telling myself that everything would be fine once I fell asleep, I felt something wet on my face. Drip. Drip. Something was dripping onto my face, bit by bit. I wanted to leap out of bed and scream. I knew without looking. That woman was on the ceiling, right above me, watching me. The foul water from her drenched body was dripping down onto my face, my body. My muscles tensed up, and I squeezed my eyes shut, forcing myself to slowly roll over, as if I were merely stirring in my sleep. When I opened my eyes again, it was already afternoon. I was woken up by the sound of Ethan knocking on my door. He said he was going to take me somewhere special today. "Where are we going?" I asked immediately, my voice tight with anxiety. But of course, Ethan wasn't going to just tell me the location of my impending doom. I'd have to find another way. I ate a few slices of bread and drank the juice Ethan had made for me, then we left. By the time the car finally stopped, the sky was already growing dark. I looked out at a deserted beach. At this time of night, there was no one else around. Signs posted on both sides of the path read, "Deep water danger, no swimming." "I know you love to swim," Ethan said, his voice laced with a strange enthusiasm. "But I don't. I've always felt that was a shame. So look, I rented a small yacht. I wanted to experience that relaxing feeling on the water with you." I forced a smile looking at him. Forget relaxing. I was feeling a distinct sense of impending doom. Ethan told me to close my eyes. A moment later, a burst of fireworks exploded in the night sky, dazzling and bright. When I opened my eyes, he was down on one knee, about to place the yin-yang bracelet back on my hand. I saw his eyes clearly in the flickering light. They were as gentle as water, but he seemed to be looking past me, at the woman I knew was standing right behind me. "From this day on, we will always be together," he whispered. "I won't let myself lose you again." The moment the cold yin-yang bracelet slipped onto my hand, I could have sworn I saw a single tear at the corner of Ethan's eye. As I was climbing onto the yacht, I managed to discreetly send my location to the seeker and glanced at the time on my phone. It was 8 p.m. Now that I knew Ethan's plan, every second with him felt like an eternity of torture. He had me sit down on the yacht, his voice still deceptively gentle. "Chloe, let's do something exciting today. Hold on tight." Before I could even finish saying, "Okay," Ethan gunned the engine. The sudden acceleration caught me completely off guard, and I couldn't react in time. I was thrown from my seat and fell straight into the cold, dark water. I know how to swim, but right now, my body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My arms and legs were useless, flailing ineffectively. I could only thrash around in the water as it filled my mouth and nose, choking me. Ethan finally turned the yacht around. He stared at me, watching impassively as I sank, and then struggled back to the surface, gasping for air. He had no intention of pulling me up. My eyes were red and stinging from the salt water. I managed to gasp, "Ethan, I'm losing my strength. Pull me up." He reached out his hand and pulled me halfway up, only to repeatedly and cruelly push me back under the icy sea. "How does it feel?" he sneered, his voice colder than the night sea. "The despair of drowning? Doesn't this place look familiar?" He pushed my head under the water again with his hand. I choked on the water, unable to breathe. Suddenly, a memory flooded my mind, sharp and vivid. I had been to this beach 2 years ago. Back then, it was bustling with people. A crowd was gathered at the water's edge, and I pushed my way through to see that a girl had been swept into the sea by the powerful waves. Her boyfriend, who apparently couldn't swim, was frantically screaming for help on the shore. But no one dared to go in after her into the rough surf. People were panicking and calling 911. I saw the girl being pulled further and further out by the waves, and I gritted my teeth and went in to save her. But it didn't go smoothly. She kept struggling in her panic, pushing me under the water. I couldn't get my strength, so I had to circle around behind her, trying to pull her up. But a massive wave hit, pulling her even further out. When I looked again, I couldn't find her. Just then, I saw the rescue team had entered the water, so I swam back to shore, exhausted but relieved. Soaking wet, I struggled back onto the sand. By the time the rescue team pulled her out, she had stopped breathing, and her boyfriend blamed me. "Why did you try to save her if you couldn't bring her back?" he had screamed at me, his face a mask of grief and rage. He said that if I had just let the woman push me under, she could have held on until the rescue team arrived. He said my death wouldn't have mattered as long as his girlfriend was saved. I looked at Ethan in front of me now, his ugly, contorted face gradually merged with the face of that man from back then. I recognized him. He had just changed his appearance, so I never suspected a thing. That woman, his girlfriend, had drowned. No wonder she was always soaking wet. "You remember now, don't you, Chloe?" he snarled. "If it weren't for you, my Alara wouldn't have died, and I wouldn't have had to go to so much trouble to use your life to bring her back." So, to get close to me, Ethan had turned his drowned girlfriend's ashes into the yin-yang bracelet. He had set up a stall on the street I walked by every day, luring me into buying it. He used every trick in the book to get close to me, all to swap my life for his beloved's. I was too exhausted to thrash in the sea anymore and was finally thrown onto the beach by Ethan. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw him setting up some kind of ritual array on the ground. The woman, Alara, was lying on the sand, her legs twisted up around her neck in an impossible position, poised to strike. "You'll be resurrected soon, Alara," he said to the woman beside him. 10 o'clock. Everything was ready. The candles were lit, but then immediately blown out by the strong sea breeze. I used that moment of distraction to scramble up from the ground, but Ethan grabbed my leg, dragging me across the sand like a broken, battered doll. The woman cackled on top of me. I was like a skateboard for her amusement. Finally, I ran out of strength. Ethan placed me in the center of the circle of unlit candles. A jar of ashes was poured over my body. That must be Alara's ashes. I thought I saw her hovering above me, her grin sinister and terrifying. She stared at me without blinking, like a predator watching its prey. My body trembled uncontrollably. I cried out that I didn't kill her, begging her not to harm me. But slowly, I could feel my body being filled, stretched like it was about to explode. Oh no! She was drilling into my body bit by bit. The wider she drilled, the more ghoulish her smile became. "What a wonderful body," she hissed. "It'll be mine soon." Her face got closer and closer, and the sight made my breathing quicken. I was terrified. Remembering the seeker's instructions, I scraped my hand against the rough sand again and again. Soon, a trickle of blood emerged and seeped into the yin-yang bracelet on my wrist. Alara seemed to sense something was wrong. She shrieked, "How can this be? How can this be, Ethan? I can't get into her body." Her fingernails, which were long and sharp, dug into my flesh. I couldn't escape. She tried even harder to squeeze into my body, but found that when her head got in, her feet would pop out. After a few tries, she became furious, her white eyes filled with a murderous rage. She looked like she wanted to tear me apart and swallow me whole. "Ethan, I'm going to kill her! Kill her!" Just as I was giving up hope, a woman's piercing scream echoed across the beach, and I saw a strange, ethereal flame ignite on Alara's body. The seeker had arrived. She threw me a smooth stone covered in paper talismans. "Smash the yin-yang bracelet now, I'll handle her." The moment I got the stone, a sharp pain shot through my right hand. Ethan had been hiding a knife. It was now stabbed clean through my hand, and blood was pouring out. "If I can't save my Alara, then you can just die," he screamed, his face a mask of desperation. Why? Why did you have to ruin my perfect plan? Just a little longer, and Alara could have come back to me. Why? He sat on top of me, his hands wrapped around my neck. I had nowhere to run. I could only use my left hand to slam the bracelet again and again onto the stone the Seeker had thrown me. Meanwhile, the Seeker was yelling at the spirit, "Resurrecting yourself by harming others is forbidden. Give up now, and you can still be reincarnated." But Alara wasn't listening. Her face was ferocious, her hatred deep and palpable. But a lone ghost is no match for a powerful expert like the Seeker. I watched as Alara's form slowly dissipated under the strikes of the Seeker's wooden sword. She staggered towards me, wanting to try one last time to enter my body. Seeing his love about to disappear forever, Ethan sliced his own arm open, instantly staining the yin-yang bracelet on my hand with his blood. "Quick, Alara, come quick!" Just as she was about to succeed, I finally smashed the yin-yang bracelet with a final desperate blow. A foul, rotten smell filled the air. Because of the blood, a thick, bloody fluid even leaked out of the broken bracelet. The overpowering stench nearly made me vomit. Alara's figure turned into tiny sparks in the night, and with a final, agonized scream, she scattered into the air. Ethan couldn't bear losing his love a second time. He went mad, frantically scraping at the ashes scattered on my body, trying to stuff them back into the shattered remnants of the bracelet. "There's a way! There must be a way! Chloe, you should be dead! You should be dead!" But the bracelet was in pieces. His eyes turned completely white, and a black, malevolent aura began to surround his body. The Seeker moved like lightning, piercing Ethan's abdomen with her sword to stop him from turning into a demon. Ethan's skin aged rapidly before our eyes, wrinkling and sagging, then returned to normal. The Seeker explained it was because Ethan had used his own blood and life force to sustain the spirit. Now that the spirit was gone, he wouldn't live much longer either. He looked the same on the outside, but his insides were already decaying. The Seeker bandaged my wounded hand and told me she had already called the police on her way over and that they would be here soon. The sound of sirens grew louder in the distance. To avoid any trouble, the Seeker left first, leaving me with a powerless and defeated Ethan on the dark beach. As I watched her figure disappear into the distance, I thought about everything that had happened. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Ethan looked at me and finally asked the question that was burning inside him. "I had everything ready, but Alara couldn't enter your body. Why? You knew everything, yet you pretended to be clueless. I always thought it was because you had help, but I know that's not it. Even if she hadn't come to help, you wouldn't have died. Right?" I turned to look at Ethan, his face pale in the flashing blue and red lights of the approaching police cars. I had to admit he was smart. As the police officers approached, I smiled brightly in the darkness. "Yes," I said, my voice calm, "but you made one fatal miscalculation." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. The street vendor told me it was a rare, high-quality bracelet that would make my skin better, and since I started wearing it, I had definitely gotten more stunning, more beautiful every day. But you miscalculated one thing. Amidst Ethan's look of shock and dawning regret, I delivered the final blow. I had already laid my claim on this body. A female officer helped me to my feet, and I pretended to be weak and fragile, collapsing into her arms. Ethan was eventually sent to prison for assault, with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Not long after, he died in his cell. The official cause was organ failure, that his life had simply reached its limit. Once my life returned to a semblance of normal, the Seeker would still send me messages from time to check in. She said Ethan's death was just a case of a wicked person getting what they deserved. I thanked her for her concern and meticulously deleted all my social media posts that had anything to do with Ethan. One evening, I was wandering down a street I often took and saw a cute doll at a street stall. The vendor enthusiastically pitched it to me. "Put this doll in your home and it will bring you more and more luck," she said with a wink. I picked up the doll, examining it closely. Meeting the vendor's knowing, meaningful gaze, I bought the doll and took it home. In the dead of night, as I sat in my quiet apartment, I received a friend request notification on my phone. The message attached read, "It's an honor to meet you." A slow smile spread across my face. I accepted the request and replied with a sweet, adorable emoji. I'm quite curious to see, I thought to myself, just how much of an honor this will turn out to be.